Can I have the approval of the March 26 minutes? Does everyone had a chance to read those? And if so, can I have a motion?
Moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we will now move to the budget report for April 2025. Pete?
The April budget, hasn't been a whole lot of change. I did try to make the changes as requested in the last meeting as far as having the top numbers, if I understood, to be, not be within parentheses. I've made that change. Right now, we're running at 1.4 million year-to-date in revenues, and we're running 1.4 million in expenditures. So we have actually a $36,000 surplus right now, heading into this quarter. These are the expenses for since the last meeting. Nothing in here that is new or that has not already been approved at previous meetings. The actual budget was in the packet, so if anybody has any questions, I can run that case.
It's in here?
Actually, it was in the packet I sent.
Yeah. Okay. I have just one quick question. This for me, just knowing, we're paying Huntington National Bank for a front end loader?
Yes.
Where is it being used?
So the front loader came in, the Waste Management District Board had a thing that they had been wanting to do, and it was these pop-up drop-off events that is done all across the city. The city needed to change their self-service recycling sites to a different way because of so much illegal dumping. So there was an agreement that Louisville Metro would do the pop-up drop-offs. Metro would purchase the front loader. The front loader was purchased on I think it's a 5-year note. And it's, we're probably 4 years in on that. I think we were looking at the cost, the difference. I think we're probably running pretty close to having made up for that. One pop-up drop-off event runs about 15,000. So we run 9 of those a year. We used to just do 8. So it was based upon an agreement between the Waste Management District and the Solid Waste Management Services Department of Public Works.
Does it come with a truck and trailer, or is that just a loader?
It's a garbage truck, the front loading garbage.
Yeah,
Front loader, okay. It's not a front end loader, it's a front loader.
Yeah, that's what
Front-
it kind of
front-
looks like.
yeah,
I know.
okay.
Yeah, it's confusing,
Okay,
but it's a garbage truck.
okay, got it.
it made a big difference on reducing illegal dumping, although we still had troubles with it.
I just saw the site, a bunch of trash.
Oh, you're talking about right up here on,
Right, yeah.
yeah, that's an indicator that is being cleaned.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just not complete and everything's not out there, so we're waiting until everything gets
Okay.
fully clear. Any questions on the budget?
We need to vote on
There's really not anything here that you have to vote on, no. If there was something in here, we would, but no, we're not.
it. Okay, there's no correspondence to the board action item. Amendment to 5-year solid waste management plan regarding capacity.
So this was an issue brought to the board probably going to be in February. It actually goes back a lot longer than that. Our 5-year solid waste management plan, it looks at disposal capacity for the future. And it gives capacity in that 5-year plan, it reapproves that. In the process of the last 3 5-year plans, it has been done to where it was incorrect. I think that this was pretty much a statewide issue. And for us to really move forward with doing a host agreement of sorts, we need to clarify that the 5-year plan is not giving additional capacity to the landfill. So it's removing and making sure that it's clear that we're not approving any additional capacity. Once we're done with that, then we can move forward. So if you remember, we enlisted the help of the Kentucky Resource Council, Tom Fitzgerald. He wrote a lot of the KRSs that is in the state law. He has helped us through this. He actually wrote the amendment, and he wrote the public notice that we have. So what we need to do at this point, because we've already approved moving forward with this, we need to put this out for a public hearing. So it goes out. This is a step-by-step process that we have, which does follow the Kentucky revised statutes and the Waste Management District bylaws. We don't have to get in a whole lot of details about this tonight, but once we get to that point, this is what we need to do. So as part of this, you have in your packet the actual thing that notice that will go into the newspaper. Has to go in the newspaper, has to be legal size and everything in the newspaper. That typically is gonna run somewhere around in that $3,000 range. So it's not $5,000 to have prior approval, but really what I need to know when we need to hold the hearing. So if I was to get it into the paper by next Friday, that starts a 30-day period that we have to have allow for the public comment. After that, we need to set the date. So this is written to say public hearing will be held on May something. We may not make May something. It could be in the first couple of weeks of June. So my question would be, is there a certain day that members think would be available for this? What day would you prefer it be on? Would it be another Wednesday, just like the first Wednesday of the month of June?
Would this be like an evening type of thing, or?
Yeah, it has to be in the evening because we need to ensure public has a chance to.
So you went through that kind of quick. So hold on, 30 days from the 28th will be your comment period, right?
Yeah, you have 30 days from when it goes into the newspaper.
So you get in Monday, which probably won't.
Probably won't.
Okay. So you're looking at the 5th to get it in?
Around in that area. A lot of it's going to depend on when I can get it in. And I will tell you all when it's going to go in. If we can't make this, or if we have to make an adjustment to this, I can set a date if you guys tell me what day of the week that you prefer. That way it gives me a little bit of flexibility in creating this when I get this out. And I can contact each one of you and say, can you be here on this day?
Yeah, any of those first 2 weeks of the evening.
The 4th is good for me.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I would request approval of the board to move forward with the public notice process.
June 4th.
Yeah. And so we need a motion for June 4th.
I would prefer not necessarily to have the
Okay,
exact date, but that's what I'll shoot for.
okay.
Just an approval to move forward with the public notice process.
Okay, so we need a motion to move forward with the public notice of the proposed 5-year plan.
So
Any
moved.
motion? Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Before we do that,
Okay, question, I'm sorry.
on this first big paragraph here, it refers to 10 million tons for the 10-year period. But then the amount disposal to date is 0 tons. Well, we know there's a lot more than 0 tons. What does that mean?
It means confusion.
And we're spending $3,000 to do that. Oh,
And
good.
that is the purpose of making sure that we're clear on what we have. So, I'm not gonna be able to explain it to you.
Okay.
What it was kind of set up to be is a rolling cap. And that rolling cap, is causing some of the confusion. And if we're gonna try to do it like most places, we have to go by what the last determination was by the state, which was actually in 2002. So we're trying to take ourselves back to 2002.
So if I actually read on page 9 at section 3 before question 4A, I probably understand what the 0 tons means. Because it kind of fits in with something that's already there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, can we move with the vote? All in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposers? Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business, Bethany Road Subsurface Recycling Facility Funding Assistance.
So we continue to have issues at this recycling site with illegal dumping. It's in an open area. You see the map here. It is basically in the middle of a parking lot, which the access is not very restrictive. So we continue to have people do it. We're not catching them all, although we just impounded one person and we have 2 more that we're looking for. But we realize we can't continue to do this. So we was working with Councilwoman Bass and trying to find another location, and we found a place down here, right here, that is a old Metro government property with a building that I haven't, nobody can tell us what it was for. No, you don't see it,
Oh, there it is.
right here. This is the Public Works yard, this is another building, and then we didn't know that we owned that. So when we, actually Dave Miller in the back kind of saw it and we checked it out, it's perfect for a site, but it needs a little work. It needs a little, but it will have a fence, it will be able to control the inflow of traffic, and we'll be able to have cameras there. So it's really pretty good. The issues, this is what it looks like inside. This is the old building. We have already started to do a lot of work on the inside, our swim screws. They have cleaned all of this up so far. They continue to do work on it. There's much more to do. So this is a breakdown of what we're trying. Demolition of the structure, $11,250. Clearing of the overgrowth, that's what SWIMS is doing. Use of the property, it's Metro government property, so there's no cost there. We're gonna have to do some repaving. The cost on that is about $10,000, which the labor and equipment is provided by Public Works, so we don't have to pay for the labor and equipment. The fence repairs, we're not sure what the fence is gonna look like after we get all the stuff out of it, but we don't plan on replacing the whole thing, maybe putting something up on this front side. So we're still not sure what the fence is gonna be. Hopefully repurposing the old signs from the Bethany Lane site. We haven't got any prices on the lights, but the electricity is there, the poles are there, so we don't think that that's gonna be a big deal. The surveillance cameras, we have those existing funds, so we'll be able to do that. This is what it looks like from the road. Yes, the building is in there. It's back in here. Most of this is already cleared out. This has a lot of stuff that will be cleared out. There'll be a tree here, and then this building would be gone. So really, where we're at is we need to try to figure out how we can do this a little bit better out there. And this gives us an opportunity to really kind of control things, which is really what we need. I've asked for other funding sources. There is another funding source that I'm hoping to get the asphalt paid for, but I can't say that I have it yet. So where I'm asking for here from the Waste Management District Board is the funds to do the demolition of the building. That includes Everything would be considered to have the asbestos, which I'm sure that there is asbestos in that building. So that is with the asbestos assumption. So after that, we're ready to get going. We know that we can't do any paving until after Derby. Every resource we have is dedicated to that or flooding concerns. So my question is to the board, would you support this so that we can kind of fix our issue out there with at Bethany Lane?
There's no possibilities at the Public Works yard with fencing or whatnot to kind of control that a little bit better?
It's too small. I think we have 6 front load dumpsters there.
Who's really using that anymore? Electrical maintenance?
Yeah, it's used. We
Because they were supposed to move all that stuff to Newburgh, if I remember.
no, they still do stuff out of there.
But the assumption was that they were gonna move all that to Newburgh. And that's why we spent a lot of money preparing that site for all their materials, so they
Yeah.
were secured better.
I know it's still used. We do use it for storm debris drop off. When we have it there, typically there's stuff that we have to get moved out of the way and stuff like that. So it's still used, but even if it was okay, I don't think it's big enough for our front load truck to be able to get in. Plus, there's other buildings there with equipment that might be in it that would have to be unlocked at the same time. So we won't be able to leave it open 24/7 like this site will be able to be.
And we wouldn't staff it like the Central
No.
Government Center.
No, this is a self-service site.
Would it have like a drive-in, drive-out gate or something, or is it going
At
in
this-
out the same, going in and out the same gate?
At this point, we're gonna use the same gate, in and out. We were talking today, and I'll just throw it out here for the future. We wouldn't mind, making this into a assisted service site like the one out at Outer Loop, Dixie Highway, or Hubbard's Lane, and accept more materials. The downside of those is that they're not open 24/7, but they sure do control the flow of people and debris,
Yep.
illegal dumping. So there would be a little bit of a trade-off there. So future-wise, I think that this would be a perfect site for
It
doing
is.
that. So just kind of putting that out there. We actually have several, I'll be honest with you, several sites that we need to look at to either close or find new locations, and new locations are tough. One is gonna be the Hikes Lane site. That's probably our worst site right now for illegal dumping. It's just constant there. And also, we just got bad news yesterday that the self-service site on Reservoir at Mary T. Maher has to be moved. There is another, we've been searching for a place. We may have one, but moving those sites is very difficult. The one at Burton Lane, when it closed, it took us months to be able to find one, and we're having to pay for it, which is the only one that we have to pay for. So transitioning to full service or assisted service sites, I think is in our future, just so that we can kind of control what's coming in and out.
A little off subject here. The building that's over here, that's a god awful ugly building. That one that's, I think is missing roofs or not. That's one of ours too.
Yes, very so. No idea. No idea. There was a quote on demolishing that one at the same time. I think it's 125, 175 to demolish that one. We're not gonna ask you guys for that. So, it needs to go. It's just a matter of where the priorities are at this time. It's quite a lot of money.
Don't we, the one down there, the pink little circle at the bottom, right? Isn't that also a metro facility too?
Actually, I thought that was showing up on the screen. This right here, yes, there's a golf course and community center there. That's where it's at now. So it sits closer to the road. It's within view. It's an invitation. for people to swing by and drop stuff off that they're not supposed to.
No, I just wasn't sure what it was.
It's Sun Valley, isn't it? Sun Valley?
Sun Valley.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete.
Some other questions for $11,250 for the demolition of the building.
And that's disposal, so they'll just take it away.
That's everything.
Okay, so can we have a motion on, the price, $11,250 to demolish this building?
So moved.
Okay. Anybody want a second? I'll second it. So do you want to do a roll call vote or just
It's any discussion.
I have a question,
any discussion? Yeah, go
one
ahead.
question on the motion. I see the letter, did he actually write a proposal on how he was gonna do this?
No, that, we do this through our facilities department. That's what the facilities, they work with them all the time. I'm assuming that they can give them a quote based upon a letterhead. That is the process.
But we're the ones paying it though, so the facilities is running it. Why are we paying it? I mean, help me out here, I don't know how this actually works.
So the waste district
Yeah.
operates and it uses a lot of local government functions.
Sure.
From county attorney's office to OMB
Yeah.
and HR. Facilities is a department of that. So if you guys want a better proposal, a more written proposal, I could do
The
that.
proposals, the number's fine.
Okay.
I'm just not used to having a proposal that's just a paragraph. That's just, so if they have something that CDS gave them, can you forward that to us?
I can, but I'm willing to bet that that's it right there. But I'll see what I can do.
You're not asking for facilities to pay for it?
No.
Okay.
So I think the possibility here is CDS probably already has an existing contract,
Okay,
and this is probably just give us a price for this building.
this building here.
Is there a site plan for how the whole property will be laid out?
The way that we're kind of seeing this is to set it up very similar to what we had at Aiken Road. I don't know if you were here when we did that, but basically when people drive in, there would be a series of dumpsters that would go along here and here. That would allow the front load truck to come in and just keep going back and forth, backing up and going out. So that's for a self-service site, it's actually fairly simple. If we go to an assisted site, it's a little bit more complicated. And as we already have the goal of updating our assisted sites with more materials such as document shredding, potentially latex paint, recycling, we're gonna have to design those. So I have already talked with our facilities people that have given me somebody that will help us design these things in case we do want to move forward. I think we need to upgrade our recycling facilities that we have. So that is part of our 5-year plan.
Any other discussion? No, can we go with the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business, 2025 education and outreach campaign update field trip.
Okay, want to introduce Michelle.
Hi, how you doing?
Michelle is here from Field Trip, and she's going to walk us through the campaign that we kind of designed. So I'm going to jump
Sit next to you so I can be able to.
here.
Excellent. Okay, so my name is Michelle Buchanan, excuse me, and we've been working with Pete and Karen now for a couple summers for litter campaigns, and this year we're working on a more robust partnership with you all. So where we have started this year is in this way. So right now, what we know about the market, there's a very broad perception that specialized waste disposal is maybe difficult or challenging to do, but that's likely from a lack of information, maybe some outdated misperceptions within the area, and people just really don't understand generally what they need to do. And so because of that, people just don't want to change their behaviors. But it's really not difficult. It's not complicated. It just takes a few extra steps from everybody. So the first step in building that foundation for behavior change is just helping to educate people and to create awareness around what is available for our residents. And where we started here, where we start all of our work, is thinking about who's the audience that we're speaking to. And as we talked about large waste and yard waste and recycling and hazardous waste, there was a common theme that came up. That many of the audiences, while they might have a slightly different need, they really all have very similar behaviors. So we have kind of these three audience groups that we've mapped. The first one is, we're calling them uninformed. This is a primary audience that we want to get in touch with because they really didn't have any idea that waste was anything different than just throwing things in the garbage. And then we have this second one. They're ready and they're willing to do the right thing. They think there might be something they need to do differently. They don't really know. They'll take the extra steps. We just have to help them get there. And we have this third bucket down here. They're kind of the secondary audience. They're a little bit skeptical. They don't really think they need to take the time to figure out what's different. They don't want to go through a hassle. So they're kind of going to brush us to the side. But what we have found with all of these groups is that what's important is they need some education. They need to understand what is available to them, why it matters. They need to know what very simple steps they have to take, and they really just need it to be very easy. So as we thought about audiences in this way, it became clear that our campaigns and our work doesn't need to be about just this thing or just this thing, but how do we take all those services and elevate everything that you have to offer at one time? So the strategy behind the work, we break it into three sections. The verbal strategy, this is the messaging. And really what we're trying to do is create messaging that sticks out. It doesn't feel government, it doesn't feel official, it feels a little bit more fun, it's a little bit catchy, and it's gonna be something that somebody might see and stop and want to see a little more. And that pairs with the visual strategy here. So again, we don't want this to feel official. We want this to feel approachable. We want this to feel like anybody would resonate with it, anybody would connect with it. And we're going to use very simple visual principles that connect all of our services. So maybe people don't understand how everything is connected, but they will see that there is connection throughout. And we pair this with our media strategy. So when it comes to media, we talked about those audience attitudes, but what I have to look at for media is demographically, who are these people? So we're looking at people that are maybe a little younger, they're in that 25 to 54 bucket, they own a home, there are people that are into remodeling, and they're probably more interested in yard work or keeping up with their home. There are people that are interested in green living, outdoor spaces, because again, they're gonna have a higher output of some of these specialized wastes that we're talking about. And then we're gonna find ways to kind of interrupt them where they are. So again, we're gonna look at really high level campaign tactics like outdoor, and we're gonna pair that with some more strategic digital things that can hit people that are a little bit more nuanced online. And that'll help us stay visible throughout the entire community because realistically, everybody needs your services, but we can be a little bit more targeted with some of those special things. And so this is how this comes together. We talked a little bit about those themes that are gonna bring it all together. So everything gets paired with a color, everything gets paired with a little icon. And again, somebody in the market isn't gonna see that little triangle with the leaf and know that it's about yard waste. But as they see them all play together, they'll understand that, oh, this is all interconnected and these things are related. And you'll notice that we do have litter included here as well, because that'll be the next phase of work that we'll tackle. So these are concepts for posters. And what you'll notice is that we're challenging people's perceptions with these things that they're already doing. Are you throwing your pizza box in the trash? Don't do that. You can recycle that item. Are you using plastic for your yard waste? Stop doing that. This is what you should do instead. So trying to stop people in their tracks with things that they're already doing and pushing them to our website to learn more about what they need to do the right way. So these are conceptual posters, but here's the actual work. So as you can see, we stuck with some really important themes that we know come up in yard waste, specifically plastic bags, leaving loose leaves, putting your grass clippings in the street, and we're pushing people right away to get rid of your waste the right way and send them to this very quick landing page within your website. This would be for large item. So, things like you're not tying down your load, are you putting your demo debris in the trash? Are you throwing large items on the curb? And here, the one that we changed is for the large items, telling people you can do this, but you have to schedule a pickup. You need to do something a little different than just leaving it outside. Recycling, we've got a few more. So challenging the idea that it goes straight to the dump. We know we hear that a lot. What's the point in recycling if people are just if you're gonna send it right to the dump anyway? Things that you recycle don't have to be spotless. Putting plastic bags in your recycling, again, things like the pizza boxes. People automatically assume it's greasy, I can't recycle that. So how are we challenging those things? And we pair this with social campaigns. So these are a series of ads that all come up together. So somebody can scroll through those different messages that they see. These are display ads that would show up throughout the internet in a number of different ways. And you'll notice the little blue button, those CTAs, or the little black button, those CTAs change it. So learn recycling tips, how to get rid of your demo debris, how to get rid of yard waste. So again, just putting people more in the mindset of what they need to do right. And everything is being directed to your website. But what we have found is you have a wealth of information there, and it doesn't exactly connect all of the people with what we want them to do. So Karen and I have worked together on an updated landing page for this campaign. But the one thing I want to call attention to is for this work, this is not to replace other people on your website. We are taking traffic that's coming from a paid ad, and we're doing a very specific landing page. We're trying to push them exactly where we want them to go. So primary is something that is to inform the public about the variety of waste options ahead of them, why disposal matters, and then help them to self-select into the category they want to explore. What this looks like is here. So at the very top, you'll notice we got creative categories that were from last year because that theme is still relevant. How do we keep people clean by using the resources available to us, by doing the right thing with our disposal? And we're immediately giving people the options to self-select into large items, yard waste, recycling, batteries, because at the end of the day, driving people to understand that there are multiple different things that they need to do. Maybe the person sees a yard waste ad, they click here, and then they realize, oh, I do have a large item I need to get rid of, and how do I do that? So we're helping to connect the dots between all of the different services that we have. And then from here, we will find people specific pages for each of those categories, and then start sending them off to your website because we've got a ton of information there, but we need to apply them on behalf of them. And then the last piece that we're talking about is the measurement, and this is an important component for you all. So what we want to talk about first is what's at the top of the funnel, right? We know something needs to raise awareness. So we can measure the impressions and your click-through rates on your ads. We can measure the amount of time that people are spending on your landing pages and how they're engaged on your site. We can look at the calls that are coming in, and those are very top-level factors, top-level KPIs we can look at. And if we get further, some things that we have talked about looking at and digging into a little further are things like web engagement. So once they go to your landing page, how is that user continuing to explore their site? The number of appointments we book, the large items, things like drop-off notifications, we can look at those as well. Drop-offs at the center, the participation rates, and things like recycling, and then we have the drop-offs for the battery campaign. These bottom actions that we want to track are trackable, but they're going to be challenging because this is going to cover not just people that are within our services, this is also going to impact people that are using private dollars. So something that we just have to be cognizant of is how are we getting information from those individuals, and again, using it as a
we had this meeting, presentation last week at the advisory committee, and one of the discussions was whether or not how we can measure in suburban areas. And I was talking with Robert Leakey's president of the chapter of the National Waste and Recycling Association, which is the private haulers within Jefferson County. We're going to try to work together on some measurements that they can track, that we can see how we're doing. Some of these appointments booked, that would be bulk items to see if they've increased, to see if the increase in the urban services district. We can track that. Drop-off and participation, those are pretty easy. We track those now. Large item drop-offs at the WRC. Obviously, we're tracking what's coming in, and we're gonna see additional inflow. Participation rates, we track those now. Some of the difficult we have there is availability versus participation. We've always had that trouble, and it has been drop-offs. We're gonna see an influx, whether or not we're getting more batteries or not. So that is tracked by what's shipped out in overtime.
I think the biggest takeaway here is that there are metrics that we can track, and there are ways we can look at how the campaign is performing. What we're attempting to do with something like this is start leading the market down a path of behavior change, right? We're trying to help guide people to understand what's available to them, how they can leverage the services that are out there. There's a lot of misunderstanding, I would imagine, around what's free, what's easy to do, things like that. So we're just trying to slowly turn the tide so people aren't so quickly just writing something off because they assume it's going to be hard or it's not worth their time to figure out. So that is what we have. Questions?
Well, I just want to say the one thing about the grass growing in the street, that's a pet peeve of mine.
I've
Because it
heard.
can be dangerous, that and weeds, when you have wet weeds and wet grass and motorcycles and bicycles go down the
Yeah.
street. And I still see people just blowing that, it drives me crazy. So I see that you have that on there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we spent a lot of time at the start of this talking to the team about what are some of the things that are easy lifts in terms of what's a message that everybody could easily get on board with, or more people are affected by. So grass clippings is one of those, that it's not that difficult just to do it the right way, right?
Right.
Sweep it up and get rid of it.
One of the things I would also like to add is that we are looking, as far as SWIMS is looking for a USD specific campaign about services as well that's going to be funded through SWIMS. So it's going to kind of use this same format, trying to make sure that we're getting the recognition, but it's going to center around the things that people can use, their services, how to use them, and we believe if people use the services right, a cleaner city, which leads into the next campaign, which is litter. Also, I did also want to point out, I missed this, as part of this is securing your load. There was an image in here. There is going to be a component of securing your load, which is a huge point of emphasis for us. There has been, and we brought this to you guys a couple months ago, but starting to cite people for uncovered loads. We have begun doing that. LMPD and the state police are running 65. And, you know, we was at a meeting the other day and LMPD said that they had seen more covers on loads than they have in a long time. Same here. It has made an impression. So we are making progress in that front. There are some other ordinances that are going to be changed here soon. But I think that this will help us line with our Urban Services District funded campaign and going into our full litter campaign. I think it helps us get to that final thing that is very difficult to measure. And that's been a challenge.
I just want to say, I appreciate the branding on the colors.
Yeah.
And the symbols. I work for MSD Government Affairs,
Yeah.
so we're all about branding and making sure the shapes go. Good job. So I really appreciate that. The only question I have, when you talk to the private haulers, are you getting any resistance on trying to get information out of them on I guess numbers? Because that's kind of a touchy subject when we start talking about private haulers versus what we do here.
I think it can be, but I think that the private haulers also see the need for a lot of these things. There was absolutely zero resistance in having a conversation,
Well, yeah.
and that's a good start.
Okay. Well, good. Good job.
Questions? Okay. Well, first of all, I think this is so exciting and just very aesthetically interesting as well as informative. Just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I wonder if the Waste Management District has a brand. And I wonder, and I totally appreciate a grassroots, like,
Yeah.
we don't want an authoritative, but I wonder if the average person on the street would understand who's communicating this message to. I was just wondering.
That is an excellent conversation or an excellent question. We've had that conversation. And in our experiences, Field Trip has worked on a couple other civic projects. And when it comes to telling people what to do, it feels a little easier when you kind of challenge the assumption and then point them to a resource. Especially for this particular campaign, it feels less important that we're telling them it's coming from waste management, right? Because we want them to use, whether or not they're using urban services or they're using a private hauler, we want them just to do the right thing. Right? So we're just trying to elevate the idea throughout the market. I think it will depend, and we have talked about how we execute the campaign on things that are on assets like posters or handouts that are going to be in front of people that we need to know are coming from us specifically. So we can make those adjustments. You're right, there is not a brand per se for the district. So what we have leaned into is for the last 2 years, we've created campaigns that feel kind of similar in terms of the color palettes and the typography. So we've kind of leaned into that theme that we've already created, and we're trying to use that to bring it all together in a more consumer friendly way, if you will. And then kind of stamping logos on where it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know that I would know what to do with
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I would just, I don't even from the previous campaigns, like I think if you're a lay person out in the community, you don't know who's communicating the message. And I hear you that maybe that's for the best, but I would also wonder if sometimes when you do know, if it gets different attention or just what the
Yeah.
benefits are. So I don't know, it's just.
Yeah, that was definitely a conversation that we had with Pete and Karen, and I wish my creative director Andrew were here as well to speak to that, because we tossed that around as how do you make it feel approachable and give it some authority behind it, if you will. So
Or just personality, like who is this waste management?
yeah. Well, hopefully this is step one in kind of creating that very consistent
But
effort.
that's,
where-
it's not on some of the things, is it?
You won't see it on. You're not going to see it on these.
Yeah, like who's saying?
Yeah, you're not going to see it here. This is social. So this gets paired with the no waste logos. So this is on our social channels, but you do see it on like your outdoor elements and things like that.
But what other commissions, boards, districts have their own brand?
Might be sitting right over there.
Well, it's a separate agency.
Yeah, we're a separate agency.
One thing
Well,
that we
usually, I mean, like a lot, I mean, if you're asking me, I mean, I would say like the Parks Alliance, they have their own brand.
Yep.
They have their own logo. I would say, like Brightside right now is debating on whether or not their foundation has a separate logo or the same logo as Brightside, the agency.
Yeah.
So, I also would just want, like, a lot of boards and commissions don't advertise, right? They're not in this space, so I don't know that it's a.
Probably not too many that have $3 million in assets.
Correct, exactly.
there's definitely opportunity to do A/B testing with using logos on some of those display ads to see if there's different engagement. We don't, like I said, include them on social because it's paired next to the no waste, but we do have it on outdoor where it gives it a little bit more officialness, if you will. And theoretically, a user is going to see it in all of those places and start to connect the colors and the theming and the messaging. But yeah, we could definitely look at doing an A/B test.
I don't know that I'd take any action based on that comment. I guess the action I would request is like keep a pulse on it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do think it's something that is a potential point of confusion for the average community member.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's really interesting to think about, and I also really love this, and I think it gets in a lot of common misconceptions that people have. Like, you all did a great job of identifying those. I think I'm curious when people go to the landing page, are they, yeah, maybe I missed it on there. Is there a way that they end up getting connected with Recycle Coach?
Yep,
Because that's
so-
such a great resource that
Yes.
like kind of does the same thing.
Absolutely. So if you click on large item, yard waste, recycling batteries, it'll take you to a second page that does two things. It will immediately tell you how to qualify where you should be, who's your hauler, and we've got links to all of those particular pieces. But then on like the recycling page, we've got a big section for the Recycle Coach app. So we give people quick links to those really important resources, but then we start sending them to the other pages that exist on the site. Because Karen's got a ton of info on other pages. So we're trying not to recreate the wheel, but quickly connect them to a few assets that are really important.
The top waste management district and the circles next to it.
Uh-huh.
Who did that?
I have no idea. That is already on the site.
It is,
Hard to read,
Is
understand.
there personality in there?
we're having to stay within the metro government website system,
Yes.
and we have a lot of little restrictions. We did have our own site, but if we stayed with it, it was ADA issues, and they really wanted to bring
So
us
this
in.
is for our deputy mayor. How much leeway would we have to even do a brand?
How
Because-
much personality?
Because
do
we gotta have a symbol, gotta have the waste management district. There isn't a whole lot else we could do.
Well, I mean, I would say, like, for instance, Homeless Services Division right now, they have we're getting ready to launch a logo.
Okay,
And so, it would run,
different than
yes,
the,
yes, and like Department of Transportation's the same way. They have their own logo, but it would be like their logo's here and then Public Works will be over here. So like, there's a way that they have, and the Public Works has the city seal. So I think there's a way to do it. I'm not in
Yeah.
the world, but I recognize what you're saying, which is it's important to have the city seal.
because MSD there's no city seal, we have our own, literally our own brand,
Yes.
so.
As I understand it, the way the site currently is set up in our experience is that banner image is tied to whatever like section of the site you're on. So there's no wiggle room on our side to update any of that, which is why our content starts below.
Banner ahead, above, that could change.
But it's connected to that whole section of the site, correct?
The words, you're gonna have a picture. No, we put that there.
Yeah, the way,
The top, the cogs,
yeah.
that's just random.
Oh, okay.
Chosen. Give me something else, I'll put it up.
That's fair. But it is connected, if I understand it from some of our other work, it's all connected to a certain section of the site, right? So it updated on all of those pages.
You're on, and
So
in
just
that
in that
moment,
section?
because of that banner, you are on the department page.
Yes,
the
okay.
Waste Management District.
Okay.
And beyond these pages, you will jump to Public Works.
Yes.
Once you get into more service.
Yeah.
stuff. We're just housing that there on the district page. That's been a whole discussion as well, reorganizing the website a little bit, especially when the Department of Transportation started. So, the goal is to make things easy to
Yeah.
find by users and not be confusing. So those sites there, they're gonna lead you to the Public Works Department, but that's because that's where all the content
Right,
is.
right.
Mostly for Waste Management District is gonna be like our meetings and boring stuff, but it's not services.
Does Know Your Waste have a logo? Do you have something?
We
I
do.
feel like?
It's,
I think if you're the average person, you do not understand how these things relate. And I don't know how to do that.
It's a
but-
bigger conversation for sure.
the No Waste logo we've had for a while, it was made by a graphic designer at the time.
Yeah, like I feel like I've seen it in
Yeah.
social
We
media.
use it,
It's
yeah,
actually right
it's
there.
on that tiny.
Yeah,
thing.
can you see it up there?
Recycle symbol. There are some issues with it, as far as a graphic
Yeah.
goes, and using it on this material. So it needs a little work if we're gonna use it.
Yeah.
We've had, I don't know where we landed on that.
We-
I love my No Waste logo. It's
I
on the
like-
bag that Marie has over there. so.
Yeah, I mean, I like it too. I think even maybe just including something like that somehow provides some level of continuity around how some of these things relate.
Yeah.
I would fact check. There's probably some surveying you could do. You've ever heard of the Waste Management District? No, it is not a hauler.
Fair, yes. Well, and that's part of it too.
You know your waste. How does it fit with,
Yes, yeah, taking the pulse of the understanding, people even have awareness of how any of this is interconnected, or does it matter? You know, in this instance, do we just want to connect the dots to, you're doing this thing, you're doing it wrong, change your behavior? But I do agree, it would be great if there was an opportunity for a more cohesive brand that brought everything together.
Now, the previous litter campaigns, we purposely didn't have them.
I would say, as someone who's a fan of collective care, known as our city, and I'm not talking about like urban service, metro, just like us together. I don't know. I like to know who's behind the message.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Just something, or just how the things fit together.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can survey and find 1,000 different opinions.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were so fond of it.
It's a lot on everything. I mean, I'm good with going back to the conversation of getting that logo to where it's
More
not
compliant,
changed
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
and compliant.
Good job,
Thank you.
good job.
Great.
I'm excited.
In and out.
Okay, now
I'm
we're
gonna
gonna
go back. I can't see anymore, so,
recycling coach pricing, home rule cities and HOAs. City tracking.
Yes. So we had this discussion at the last meeting where we made a request to go ahead and fund this for the next year. There were some ADA issues that I think is being taken care of. It should be in under the wire. But there was also a question about, does this apply to people in the suburban areas? And while it already goes to everyone, it's just not got it doesn't have all of the services. So the question was, would the Waste Management District pay for them? How much would that cost? Karen, do you want to talk about what we got back from Carly?
About that pricing.
Yeah, the pricing.
Right, so it's only been a year when I had asked for this. And they gave us this pricing that you can kind of see based on population for the home rule cities or HOAs. So, and that was new. Prior to that, we could have just done it as part of our package. But then when I started getting, trying to just say, hey, if someone wants to do this for real, how much is it, like, how do we go about that? And then they kind of step back like, well, I think we have to have a pricing for population here. So that's what you see listed. So since they gave that to me last year, and this has come up more and more where we really want home rule cities to have this option, they do have to have a single hauler, otherwise we can't import the addresses and the days into the recycle coach system very easily if it's just individual houses everywhere. But that's the pricing they gave us, and they came back and said that the pricing will increase year over year, but for now, that's the first year pricing. And they gave us a 5% increase for year 2 and year 3 as far as the contracted price. So I think it's come up before that it would be nice for the district to pay for that, but we have yet to have a home rule city or HOA actually ask.
That was what I was gonna ask, have they even asked for it?
No one has asked, so no one has ever done this. And I don't know if it was cost prohibitive, if we need to promote it to the cities differently, like go ahead and say the district will cover this, would you like to participate? Although when we first got Recycle Coach, no one did it then, but it was new, so maybe, now that it's more established.
Isn't the, isn't the information on Recycle Coach mostly written towards the urban service district information?
If you are living in the urban services district, you use it by your address. So if you live in our service in the USD, the address will populate the calendar accordingly because that's the only information that Recycle Coach has. So if J-Town, wanted to join in, we would just get that. All we need is a basic spreadsheet of addresses and collection days, and then they input that so that they can then also get reminders for collection days. But for now, if you have an address that's outside of the urban services district, all you will see populated on your calendar are the pop-up drop-off events. You can set reminders for those, but that's all you'll see.
One thing, when we set this up, we set it up with the intention that anybody would be able to use it countywide. So all the addresses are actually already in the system. We just need a day of
That's true.
service.
Because if that's how it knows to only put the pop-up drop-off on there, otherwise it wouldn't find your address at all. And then the other tool the other feature besides reminders is the what goes where search tool. And that's at the top for anybody that just type in an item and you can see how to dispose of it. And there are a few, we've gone on and on about
consistent messaging and what are the differences between facilities where our material might end up. And there's only a few exceptions, and there's just a little blurb that says check with your private hauler if there's actual difference. But most things have kind of leveled out at this point.
So the only difference that I can see with home rule cities and urban services district would be the calendar, because they can see the drop-offs on their own, that regardless if they're in this thing or not. The calendar,
Yes.
That's correct.
so that's it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I can't support $3,000 for a calendar. I can't.
This wouldn't apply to where I live in what's the term again, unaffiliated,
Unincorporated.
unincorporated areas. Because we've got multiple vendors.
Right, and multiple haulers, be very difficult to put that in unless you had the private haulers giving us the individual addresses.
Right, they're not gonna do that.
What I would say is that the calendar already exists within the urban services district. I think that it would only be fair that that would be included for anyone else. It'd be a nominal cost compared to the 10,000 that we're paying currently for the entire program. So I would ask that we would support when and if a home rule city or an HOA comes to us and asks us for the ability to do that. You're also, I guess you're in essence, you're correct. It's basically for a calendar. It's the only thing that they're not getting now. But I would hope that we can find a way to make that happen.
Well, I'm open to revisiting it if somebody shows up and says, hey, we'd like a proposal to join. I mean, we revisit at that point. Today, I just can't support it.
We'll throw another pitch at you.
Go ahead.
The more people that you have signing up, the more opportunity you have for people to use the what goes where. And it's also more opportunity for people to understand that they have the pop-up drop-off events and other services and the educational materials that comes with the program. So I think that there's some benefit to the greater good, the more people we have signed up. It's kind of like the calendars helps us sign more. That's it.
I mean, we can get some of that information already from, I signed up with three council members, their newsletters that go out, and they all have a pop-up drop-off.
It's out there in a lot of different ways, and in today's time, you have to hit people 15 different ways for them to pay attention to anything. So, I think Recycle Culture is a great thing. I hope that we can continue to support it. But the answer is right now to what we were asked is that it is available to people in unincorporated or not the unincorporated, but home rule cities and HOAs if we fund it. We'll bring it back when we have a request,
Yes.
which would have to happen anyway.
I would be open to discussing it when somebody actually says, hey, we'd like to be a part of this.
Okay. So we also have, I don't know that we had final approval to move forward, or we did. It was pending ADA compliance with Recycle Coach, which is going to be achieved, I think, here shortly.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be achieved shortly. It's just, it's not due for like a year, like all the ADA compliance. And so they came back with kind of their plan, like they will be doing anything that is required of them in the time that they're required to do so.
Yeah, we approved that 2 meetings ago, I believe.
Yeah.
A couple of meetings, so that was like a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. We're good.
Okay, and thank you. Accommodation for ADA solid waste services.
We skipped something.
I couldn't re-slide them if I put it in the wrong spot, I'm sorry.
I may have put it in the wrong spot at later this year. So we can move forward with that. So, we've been passed,
Did you have a slide?
well, what I can tell you, and I can pull it up on, just from my computer, is that the last thing that we were supposed to do is come up with some messaging that can go out to private haulers and HOA, and then how we can educate people on the ADA rules when it comes to solid waste management in Jefferson County. So in your packet, you'll see a potential website mentioned here that talks about the ADA and why, and how it works with the ADA for solid waste management services, and then your rights in action to tell them what they can do. There's another shorter version that talks about it as well. And then we have a letter that would go to waste haulers in home rule cities to give them information for their, just basically for their education. They can decide what to do with it from there. But I think that's meeting the goal of the Waste Management District to educate on ADA compliance when it comes to solid waste management services. So willing to answer any questions on this. I created this. It could be improved, but I don't think it's too bad. So willing to listen to any comments or questions or concerns.
I assume our lawyers looked at that over there.
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to look at the letter?
I have not. I guess I mean, this is great. I appreciate all the hard work that everybody does.
I'm good
One
with it.
question I
I'm good
have
with it. Excuse me.
is, are they gonna be, you know, some of the home rule states, with wording and whatnot, investigating, an investigation in there, a letter to the home rule cities? Are they gonna get all upset at the waste district again for, like, we're investigating them?
No, I don't think the investigation was
Maybe some
in
of the
that
words.
context. It was researching the issue.
Research the issue, yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
maybe that's what I can change the wording to research.
I don't
Okay.
dislike investigating
dislike it at
though,
all
it
either.
sounds like,
Yeah.
oh, I better get my stuff
Well,
together.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I know.
You know, but I don't know, we tend to sugarcoat too much stuff as it is already. We're all grown ups here. Let's just read it.
I have no problems with myself, it's just that I feel that there may be some folks out there that, in some of those towns and cities,
Yeah.
that may not like that use of that word.
So to answer your question, Robbie has not seen this unless he looked at it before. And what I will say though, is this came directly from the county, the opinion that come from the county attorney's office. And if there isn't anything that's gonna contradict that, I will definitely run it past legal before we do anything, obviously. But if you guys are okay with this, I think we can actually put the ADA issue, question to rest,
Yes.
and we have a process.
Yes.
Yeah, question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Have we come to some agreement on how we're going to qualify for ADA service?
How an individual would qualify? Is that,
Yes.
okay, so I think that part was kind of left up to the individual waste hauler. We have a process in the Urban Services District. It's through ordinance. I know many of the haulers that we contacted, they did have a process in place that they use. And if they're comfortable with that process, I don't see us trying to change or change what they're doing. I mean, we might make some suggestions with it. Is that what you're looking for is?
Looking for consistency. The way that's what I'm looking for.
Some of it,
I think if we're going to pass an ordinance, there should be some type of guidance as to how the ordinance is governed.
No, we don't need an ordinance.
We're not passing an ordinance.
no, it's not an ordinance. We're not really,
Or just,
our recommendation is basically what it is,
It's all
our
right.
education. I don't think it's a bad idea. People are in different spots. The city of Shively would probably prefer not to have a complicated process. Some home rule cities probably wouldn't want to have a complicated process. So I think it's a good conversation that we can have that gives some general principles for some best practices for that. We can put that together for sure.
I'm all for, taking care and following ADA, obviously. But I just think it would be nice to have a consistent process for all of this cost.
We can go back and work on that. That's what the board wants us to do. Is that? To assign it to the advisory committee to take a look at it.
Let's send it back to the advisory committee.
No.
I'm happy.
We're not. This is just a recommendation for you to follow federal ADA law. Period. It's a recommendation. Whether you and your constituents in your waste hauler area choose not to, that's between you, your people, and the federal government. That's not us. The only thing this letter says is for you to follow the rules. That's all it is. It doesn't say anything about consistency. It doesn't say anything about what you can and cannot do. It actually has a website and ADA compliant. So it's not SWIMS compliant. It's not Waste Management District compliant. It's ADA compliant. So I don't know what we're sending back to the advisory committee and asking. I mean, what are we asking them to do? Read the letter.
No, I don't think that that's the intent. It's basically giving guidance. Or, I see your point. I do see both sides of this.
That's in there. Follow ADA rule. Period. That's the guidance. It's not our rule. It's federal government. So there's no, that's the guidance to me. I'm already. We're not telling people what to do. We're asking them to follow what the law is.
I understand. It's boards.
Yeah, I mean, did I miss something? I'm not asking.
I don't know, I think that what you're saying makes sense, and I feel, well, yeah, I don't know what more we could say in here as far as like defining who is disabled or how that gets determined.
We don't want to do
That
that.
doesn't seem like it's
That's not
within
our
our
job.
purview. I think if there continue to be issues, then like maybe we do something else to escalate this as an issue, but
Well,
I think we have, with this, I think we have a guide for everybody to go by. I don't think we're gonna get, with all the different agencies that we're doing, that we're gonna get consistency across the board. And I think that's what everybody's looking for. I don't think we're gonna have, one hauler and this hauler and this hauler all doing the same thing. They have different rules, but they do have a rule to go by.
I don't disagree. That was my point about one place is not gonna be wanting to do it like somebody else is doing. As long as they feel comfortable that they are complying with the ADA, then they're there.
If you wanted to add in some little sentence here, somewhere here, Pete, that maybe says something that in discussions with haulers, and Andy's brought up some good points of what his company does, that most seem to already be in compliance or have policies in regard to this, but we need to make sure that everybody's fully compliant with what we're doing.
If they want to call us and say, what can you do? I think the one thing that we can say is, this is what Metro follows. You can look at that and see if that's what you want to do.
and that's it.
but we can't go over the line and
Right, you
give
can't recommend anything.
advice.
Right, you can't recommend, you can't guide. This is what we do. That's what
They
you
have
do.
that to go back.
If you want that, great. If you don't, okay. Because once you start defining and recommending, you own it. And we don't want, we can't own it. We can't. I'm in my line of work, you can't own it. You can't.
So, if the board is okay with the language, I don't think that there's necessarily a vote on this, if everybody's okay with this moving forward.
Good.
As far as the website, I'll just say I kind of like the shorter version because I think it contains all the same information, but it's just kind of a little easier to read and
Yeah, sure. I like the short version.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, the part that is back on my presentation, waste management, if you're ready to move forward. It's
Oh,
waste-
okay,
waste
so we're at
district
the
grant.
advisory committee report.
No, it's the waste grant.
Waste management district grant program.
Okay.
Okay, so the grant process,
I didn't realize it was under the advisory committee. Bruce is the chair.
For your.
Okay. I wanted to. Looking out for
Sorry
you,
about
Bruce.
this.
private. So we had the advisory committee last week, and a big portion of that meeting was going over the grant process. I was able to send out a link. We had a couple of committee members, thank you, Corey, to actually go through and kind of pretend they were applying, just so they could see the user side of it. It's not a difficult program. It's just a lot, you know, you're inputting a lot of questions and you kind of have to visualize it. You have to go on the other side, that's the user side. So anyway, it was nice to have some help. And I did get some feedback, and I've made some of those adjustments. I've been recommended to not make certain adjustments for different reasons. And there's some adjustments that can't be made because it's just how the platform works. But overall, we are much closer to having the grant process going. And I put these on the screen. These are the three main sections of that, the guideline page, which if you all don't have copies of everything, I will send it to you. It's just been kind of in the works, so. But the three big sections for what we want to know on the application are the project narrative and plan, which would be 40% of the points given by the reviewer. Community impact, sustainability, and partnerships is 35%. And then organization's experience, financial information, and evaluation is 25%. Based on and we have like a scoring rubric and everything. So one thing that we discussed last month was that we would start out for our first year of the district providing $50,000. So total $50,000, not really knowing how many grants that means or what kind of projects people are going to even have. Committee was fine with being somewhat vague. They did recommend putting a minimum. And there was a lot of back and forth, but I believe the $5,000 minimum was what we wanted to say. It was recommended that by the Susan Durham is the person who is over the grant process for Metro. She suggested we have a question about scalability. So if the award, that way if the board decides to award, they want to award it, but maybe not that as much as they asked for. They have a question on the application, how they could move forward on a smaller scale. And then of course, because we have no idea who's gonna come up with what kind of project, you obviously do not have to choose to award anything if there are not projects you want to fund.
Can I interrupt you? Because I will forget if I don't.
Okay.
Back to the previous screen, if I could be. The agency that was here months ago, last year, maybe.
Be global.
Thank you. That started this whole discussion.
Yes, it did.
How would they fit into this,
Yeah,
what do you
they're,
wanna call it,
Um,
the scoring?
well,
I mean,
they
how-
would have to have a project.
Yeah, 'cause-
Now, I think what they really, I think deep down wanted was just some funding to have their entire operation work.
Because I think we were, if I remember the discussion from back then, we were talking about something like, some capital or improvement that they would do in their facility to be able to generate or to handle more food waste issues or something, or like Denver what it was.
Yeah, it would be up to them.
So how
To-
would that fit in, something like that? I'm not proposing them as the vendor, but how would something like that fit into the scoring?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that it does. But that was the whole point of us going down this rabbit hole, is to come up with something that is fair and we can get into the finer details. That's on the low side, because they was asking, I think, for 5,000. But it would be up to the scores to look at the scoring rubric at the end of it. And if they're the tops, then they're the tops. If they're not, they're not. But we have a fair system, because I think that was a huge concern with us. And I think rightfully so.
And at the beginning of this, when you are on the page or you get the information about the fact that we have grants, there's an introduction to it that basically says the Waste Management District's mission, with the purpose of the grants, is to align with the mission and align with the 5-year plan. And there are some themes within the plan that are listed, so that as people read through this, that's the beginning to even know if they want to apply. Because the projects do need to fit into our mission and the 5-year plan, so. So the next slide, we can go back to any questions you want, but I just kind of drafted out a timeline just to get an idea. And Bruce hasn't seen this. That was sort of discussed at the committee level where, so just hypothetically, if we were able to have the application be open June 1st, these are kind of the follow through of what would happen. The committee suggested a 30 to 45 day application period. This is a new platform, eCivis is what it's called. They will host meetings to learn that if people want to learn more about how to use the program, if they're not sure about that. And then they do recommend that the application deadline, actually it's not even a recommendation, it's mandatory, it has to be at 5 p.m. on a Thursday or Friday, and definitely not 11:59 p.m. because, nobody wants to work all through the evening. And I wasn't sure on the idea of having interviews or follow-ups. I wasn't sure if that was normal. I just had that as a possible thing if needed, but I have not asked that question to those that have experienced grants like this.
I would say not follow up so much per se, but interviews would be good if you got 5 or 6 projects that you really like, and you could have them come in and just kind of pitch it. Not 40 slides. I'm talking one or 2 at the most, and 5 minutes of what it is. That's if you got 5 or 6 different projects that are pretty good, and you want to try to, you can't fund them all, but maybe the interview or presentation process might break the top. And out of the 5 or 6, you might get 3 good ones and be like, okay, now we're done. That way you're not sitting there, all of us arguing for the next 12 hours trying to pick somebody. But I do like the interview process, not the follow-ups.
I think site visits could be really valuable too, like we could go to the places, and then you can see your space and maybe you meet multiple people and I don't know, I think that might help bring it to life a little bit.
I agree.
I also don't know, well, and I guess that brings up another question for me of like, what's the role of the council and the board and the staff in each step of this process? Like, would that mean like the board is going to visit a bunch of sites and is that realistic? Yeah.
Well, we do have to choose, is that the next slide?
No.
Okay, we need to know who is gonna be on the review panel. It's not necessarily everyone, you know, so that would, and maybe those would be only people that would be involved in something like that.
Yeah, it's just like basically an RFP, you have a scoring that takes place, you have selected people, that's their task, they select them and then the decision is to award. And I would assume that before an award is made, it comes to this board for approval.
I would say the scoring could be done by the committee. And after they score them, the board could look at the finalists and try to determine who actually
Is
gets the grant or whatever.
15 people too much? The advisory committee is quite a few people on it.
That's too many.
Sometimes
That's
that's,
too many.
that's
That's
too many.
That's
So
that's
what
too
we've
many.
done in the past is create a
That's
committee,
way too many.
a subcommittee of the advisory committee
Yeah.
that would do the scoring.
Yeah, I would say 5 at the most.
Got a question?
5 total.
Total, yes.
My experience of the State House in Indianapolis, we have a board. The board scores the applications individually. And then staff actually scores the evaluations or the applications. And we do a blended average for the overall score for the applicant, based on all the factors of the grant requirements. And, one thing I don't know if we decided on Karen or not, whether there's any matching requirements that's going to be involved. But it's worked very well. Over the last 3 years, we've not changed the procedure whatsoever. And we award 3 to 5 grants totaling $2 million annually. And it used to be a whole boatload of recycled lumber picnic tables 15 years ago. Now it's very good projects that are sustainable. They can actually prove the sustainability with reports back to the board. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I will tell you that if you don't have good scoring metrics in place when you open up that grant round, you're gonna be overwhelmed. Because people will come out of the woodwork for free money and they won't know how to get it. And you have to have that scoring matrix to give that to them, show them what boxes they're gonna have to check off.
Agreed.
He brought up the matching. We haven't had that discussion and I haven't heard from board members, but do you want to require matching or?
If we've got a minimum of 5,000 and the total pot's 50. I'm not in favor of the first go around after 50. Now, if we increase the pot to 100 grand in 5 years, maybe, you know, we might look at matching. But for a total pot of $50,000, let's just see what we get first.
Yes.
I think that anyone who's doing a big impactful project with these dollars is gonna have to find other dollars. But it's so burdensome to have to track that just from an accounting standpoint. I mean, I don't-
I'd say that's absolutely true.
yeah, let's not have them use the dollars to have to do all of that and just let them focus on the project. is my opinion.
She's got a good question.
Great job.
I have
have lots, but I'll keep it to myself.
So are we, are we pretty much ready to go? You guys feel like we're ready to go on this grant process?
Yeah.
I want to point out that there's been a lot of great work by a lot of people
Yeah.
to create this. We come a long way
Yes, it is.
in doing this, so nice job to a lot of people.
There's some fine
Especially Karen.
tuning.
Well, I was gonna ask, to his point, do you have the scoring charts with all the boxes?
I do, I have
All
a
the-
rubric.
The
what
rubric
I'll
all
do-
done.
I would like to do all the fine tuning that I need and if it's okay, just will send everything via email. It is currently in a test environment. So, once it's kind of, in the test environment, it's already been, open for application. So any changes I make, like I can't make something required anymore because it's already open, but things would be required. But once I get that fine tuned in the test environment, I'll send you the guidelines document, that link if you just want to try it out.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. And hopefully that won't take too long. I've been doing some of the trainings and stuff for this piece of this. It's new for Metro still, but I like it. It's clever.
Do we need a vote for that?
Do we need a vote?
I would assume if we're not spending any money, so before we spend money, I would think that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, update. Update the cost service study. Update.
Yeah, so we've been consistently working. There's been a lot of, not dead time, but slow time, just as data is gathered. We met 2 weeks ago. We have another meeting tomorrow. So far, right now, data collection for the subscription area is complete. It is good data. The data for home rule cities is complete. There may be some additional data come in, but we felt like that we have enough data for there to be the amount of data to make good decisions on. And the data collection for Metro and the USD is in process, but mostly complete. We will be going over our bulky waste collection pricing tomorrow and looking at households. So that I'm hoping that we can be complete on that very, very soon. So the next step would be for Raftellus to take the data, analyze it, and give us a report on their findings according to the RFP. So right now, I feel like that we're on track for meeting the August deadline. There really isn't a whole lot that I can show because one of the things that we want to do is hold the data before people get it and start making assumptions. That's something that might change. So that's where we're at. So that's my update on the cost of services.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, staff report, disaster response and recent severe weather flooding.
So if anybody hasn't noticed, there's been some disasters in Louisville over the past month. A couple of tornadoes and a major flood. So what I will tell you is that there has been a lot of work that's taking place. The city did activate its emergency contract. Metro's Services Swims operated 9 total drop-off sites across Jefferson County for vegetative waste that was open for a week. We didn't have a whole.
I noticed one part still had a lot of brush piled up in the parking lot.
Highview parking lot. Highview Park?
Yeah.
Okay, so people continue to dump at Highview Park. Several of them were contractors, which weren't allowed anyway. We do have some images of them, so there may be potential citations in the near future for them. To continue on, where the cleanup is ahead of schedule, doing really, really good. A lot of work has been done. It's been a 3-part process. And the first one was getting the debris away from the roads and the roads open, clearing the debris and the mud from parks, which is virtually complete. And then the third phase, which is what we're going into now, which is curbside pickup. We created EMA has created a online registration system here. And basically, we have an FAQ and a self-reporting form when here's all the questions about, how do I know if I'm eligible? Do I have to separate my debris types? The answer to that is yes. What about household hazardous waste? And how we go with that. But then you can come in here and input your data. It requires an address, contact information, and up to 4 images so that we can kind of see what the debris is. And then once we get all these in, which we've received about 70, they're spread everywhere. And once we have all those in, we'll create a routing system that we'll be able to go to them. We have right of entry agreements that have to be signed for certain locations. So all of that is in the works. We have private roads and the such. That a lot of work has been done. And even with the hazardous materials, I went out today, 6 drums floated up and onto a street or roadway, and we're having to deal with that as well. So floods are a whole lot different than most disasters because you don't know what's going to come up into it or what's going to float away. So I have to hand it to the EMA. I think EMA has done a fantastic job. Our crews with swims, I think, has done a fantastic job with our drop-off sites. Have it down to a science from front to end, and we're doing really well at that. EMA, the communications team, all of it has been a great effort, and we're doing really well. If anybody, there is a link to the page here in this presentation, but it is available online at the EMA's website for anybody that would need that. If there are any questions about the disasters, we're getting pretty good at them.
Can we go back one? Have y'all heard back from DC that the president has signed a declaration?
My understanding is that FEMA has declared a disaster for Jefferson County, making federal assistance available. What I do know is
They
that
haven't heard back yet.
I can't confirm that, no.
I was wondering, I saw it and I was like, well, we haven't heard back yet. That the sheriff sent the request up, but we haven't got anything back from DC saying it's been signed.
I'm sure you're probably as connected or better connected than I am. If I hear something, I will let you know.
I'll let you know when I hear something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, because we got some things that need to be fixed too.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a great effort by a lot of people that get this done. So,
yeah, this one was a lot better than 18 and tremendously better than 97. So,
yeah. And I honestly, I'd say, I think MSD has done a fantastic job because not as nearly as much neighborhood flooding take place. So all the work that you guys have been doing has made a difference.
we tried.
I don't know that that's been put out there, but I sure know.
So who's doing most of the work? Is it Ashford or thing?
It is actually,
Public Works seems to be doing a bunch of good work like we used to.
Public Works hasn't been as involved, but we have been stretched mighty thin. We have been doing the monitoring, whereas Tetra Tech would typically have done that. So we have been doing a lot of the monitoring that's taking place. So that's kept us busy, and we're doing touch up, and we are doing certain areas that need that assistance. So it's been busy. I will say it's been very busy. So if anybody doesn't have any questions on that, thank you. And I believe that is the end of the staff report. So that was the staff report. So now we're on to announcements.
Okay, so announcements. The next 109 meeting will be Thursday, May 28th, 2025 at 5:30. The next advisory committee meeting will be Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 at 4:30. If there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Does anybody have questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I tried question.
I am Jerry DeBrawl, for those of you who do not know me. I am an attorney. I want to clarify that I'm not here for the purpose of giving legal advice, but as a citizen who has a concern. Pete gave you an update on the cost of services study. And my understanding, that study is nearly complete. But during that study, there was a item in the contracts that Dallas wanted contracts with homeowner cities and homeowners associations. Contracts between the haulers and those cities. That information, I believe, is under state law confidential. This is a copy of the statute that I think applies. I think you, simply by looking at it, confidential business information means the following information goes on. Commercial or residential customer service prices or commercial residential customer lists. So, notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary, unless by order of a court of competent jurisdiction, a county or waste management district, or its agents, officials, or employees shall not compel the production or submission of confidential business information. Approximately 3 weeks ago, one of the employees identified in the contract as an employee of the office started going around to home rule cities and issuing open records requests. I believe that is in direct contravention to the statute which says shall not accept the order of the court of competent jurisdiction. I'm not giving advice. I'll let you all fill out where you want to go with that.
Could you help me?
Something,
I'm sorry, Jerry, I didn't mean to.
sir, you're fine.
The first section here, 1. Could you help me with, it says, following information related to privately contracted solid waste management services that are not being provided pursuant to a franchise. I don't understand.
A contract between a city and the hauler is not a franchise contract. Therefore, that contract between Honolulu City, between the city, that does not apply in my perception. Part of my concern is that Dulles has done a lot of work. They're entitled to, the company, the contractor has done a lot of work. They're entitled to some compensation. There's a concept in law that says if something's in contravention of the statute, basically it's breaking the law. Public funds cannot be used to pay for it. So how do they get compensated? I have a concern in that regard, but I use artificial intelligence from time to time. Just give me a roadmap on something. So I went in this morning and I just put a basic blank question. If this is in contravention to law, who can pay for it? What happens? Now I will tell you where I'm preparing a lawsuit. Of course, I would go deeper and do a lot more research, but I'm just giving you this for your information. That's what I came up with. I think you can probably read that about as well as I can, but things about who's responsible, personal liability. I've spent a number of years on councils, on boards, And I know as having done that, I've got a lot of questions that I have to ask constantly if I'm on one of those boards. And I've also got to protect myself and the board. I'm just concerned what my perception of that statute is that when he started issuing those open records requests, did complete the violation of this statute. That was done.
Well, it sounds like you have a meeting tomorrow.
We have already discussed it with our county attorney, when this was brought up another time. Robbie, do you, as our county attorney, want to comment?
No, I can comment on it at the next meeting. I prefer to educate myself on these allegations before I speak to them.
So we'll table it to the next meeting.
We'll say,
We'll table it to the next
Is
meeting.
there any work that needs to be paused in the meantime? If they're concerned, like,
Well, as I discussed earlier, the only remaining part is really the early services district part of it. So, I don't think that there would be any need. We'll discuss it tomorrow with Ellis. We looked at it at the time and felt that we were in a position to move forward. So, whether or not Jerry brings up new concerns, I can't really answer that. So, I think that we have to send it to our legal counsel.
Because we're gonna table this subject to the next meeting, With that,
You mentioned, or at least the sheet here mentions, the
Oh, it
next
says
one on
Thursday.
our waiting board meeting Thursday, May 28th. The 28th is Wednesday.
it should be Wednesday.
Yeah, just want to clarify. that.
Okay, thanks.
Always something.
So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you for running the meeting.